All right, so we've got several people joining us live. I want to invite everybody to take an intentional deep breath in, roll your shoulders back, and really allow yourself, your mind, your body to become present into this conversation. And I do want to again say thank you for sharing your time, your energy, and your life with me and with all of the women in this program. I believe that this conversation truly is a conversation that is elevating what's happening in the world. So for me, I don't even see this just as a webinar that we're doing. I see this raising kind of the collective consciousness, and it is something that's having a greater impact than I think any of us can even be aware of. You know, that's something I'm confident in. I believe that this conversation, when we're in it and we're committed to it, even when we're using it in the chip aisle, right? When we're using it, when we're trying to support ourselves to stay on a certain diet, or if we're supporting ourselves through a difficult conversation, that this confidence conversation right here, right now, is important to the world that we're going to continue to co-create and the world that my children are going to live into. So I'm humbled and super excited that we're here, and I'm kind of in awe that we're a whole hand in. We're on webinar number 5, which kind of blows my mind. And today, selfishly, we're going to continue this conversation in the flow in which we've been talking about, this confidence flow model. How do I continue to allow confidence to flow through me? Because again, confidence isn't something that I have to find. Confidence is something that I have to allow. It already is there. It is who you are innately. And confidence flows first from the conversation that you're having with yourself, which then impacts the level of personal permission you give, which then impacts how you participate, and then ultimately will generate a greater impact in your life and our global community. So I like to keep talking about this, that we're going to be generating an impact in this conversation. And today we're going to talk about how to argue with confidence. Everybody say argue.
Argue.
Hey, because sometimes when we get into an argument, the sense of like an argue, you know, when you argue, it can feel like kind of a bad word, and it can kind of create a lot of resistance. And so I think it's important to talk about how to really engage in difficult conversations and how to engage in arguments with confidence. And a lot of times when we're in the power with or the power over paradigm that we've talked about, we avoid arguments. So I just want to see by a show of hands or a yep, you're either going to raise your hand or say yep. Do you find that you tend to avoid arguments?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
I heard all that in my ear, right? So we have a lot of people on the phone that avoid arguments. We avoid difficult conversations. This doesn't mean that you're not just arguing for argument's sake. It's that when you see an argument come on, you retreat, right? And so what I want to encourage you to do is to use any of those resistant conversations as an opportunity for you to allow your confidence to flow. Everybody say flow.
Flow.
Okay? Because when we get into difficult conversations, we tense up, right? So there's a sense of we tense up in the argument, or we tense up in the difficult conversation and we withdraw. So the reason I'm specifically talking about this is I want you to start leveraging difficult conversations and AKA arguments as an opportunity for you to practice the skill of confidence. So I'm going to give you kind of some steps with respects to, well, how do I leverage my confidence in that moment of tension? So what I want everyone to do is I want you to be in the moment of tension. Ready? So put your arms up and kind of be in that moment of tension. Oh, okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to, with one of your hands, I want you to grab your stomach and I want you to go, oh. Ooh. Then I want you to take your other hand. I want you to put it on your head. I want you to go, ooh. Ooh. Because this is kind of how arguments, it lands in our body either here, it lands in our body either in our stomach, or it lands in our body through our head. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Say yep.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So first of all, become very aware of when you're entering into that, and then get excited. So you're gonna go like this. There we go. You're going to have the, oh, and then you're going to go, oh, ah. Okay, so everybody go, oh, Okay, because what I want you to do is I want you to get excited the next time you figure, when you're feeling it here, or you're feeling it here, or you're feeling it here, I want you to feel it and then get excited like, oh, this is my opportunity to practice. So I want you to know that this is what we're trying to do. We're not just trying to feel confident when everything's going our way. We really want to exercise the flow of confidence when we enter in those resistant conversations. Can any of you see how excited I am about today? Anybody?
Yes.
I'm like, whoa, let's get ready to argue. No. So, and I just really think it's powerful because what's on the other side of an argument?
A reward.
There's a reward, right? So if you successfully move through the argument, there's going to be some kind of reward, right? There's going to be some kind of, like, what is the reward? Let's talk about what that reward is. Could be.
It could be.
It's a resolution to the problem.
Yeah.
What else could that reward be?
You win the argument.
Okay, so this is an interesting, there's a sense of, and we're going to say that somehow you've moved through the argument and you're feeling victorious. You know, we're hoping that you create an environment where both parties win, because what I want you to do is I want you to do this with your hands real quickly. Go like this. Because what I don't think we realize is that this is what we experience at the end of an argument is greater togetherness. That we strengthen the relationships that we're with, we strengthen the bond that we have with ourselves. So there's a togetherness is really the reward. So I'm in this resistant space that kind of causes me a little bit of fear. I go, oh, this is an opportunity for me to practice some of these skills. And I'm going to reap the benefit of creating stronger relationships in my life personally and professionally, right? I believe that before there's a breakthrough, you always have a breakdown. So breakdown always precedes a breakthrough. And breakdown often happens in the form of arguments, in the form of difficult conversations, in these kind of environments. So I wanted to just deconstruct the way I want you to kind of go, oh, and then kind of give you some steps that you can follow. So number one, and I love that Kathy started this, right? Because you were arguing with yourself. Do I stick to my list? Do I not stick to my list, right? Because this can be the argument that you're having with yourself. And what did Kathy do while she walked down the chip aisle? She got anchored, right? She sat there and she anchored herself. I am a sexy, what are the words?
Sexy, thin, gorgeous woman.
Yes, you are. I am a sexy, thin, gorgeous woman. And so even as she was arguing with herself, the first thing that she leaned on was her anchor. So we're going to get anchored in a moment, but I want to kind of go over the steps. So number one is get anchored. So everybody say, get anchored.
Get anchored.
Okay, so this is the number one thing you do. Number two is once you get anchored, you take an intentional deep breath in and you commit to creating a win-win. Everybody say win-win.
Win-win.
Okay, so you're making the commitment to generate a win-win. It doesn't matter if the person that maybe you're arguing with might not be in win-win. That's immaterial. You become the commitment of generating a win-win and you're going to transform the entire argument. Okay, so number three, and this is really important for women. I want you to give yourself full permission to trust what you are feeling. Because I believe we've been raised in kind of an environment where women are like, we no longer trust what we're feeling. Oh, you feel too much, you're too emotional, you feel all over the place, and those feelings are going to get you in trouble. I'm going to give you a tool that's going to support you in really directing and being able to kind of weed through your feelings so that you can trust your feelings. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. So I'm very excited to share this tool with you. So your feelings are powerful. I'd like everybody to say, my feelings are powerful.
My feelings are powerful.
And that this ownership in all of our relationships is important to own, that your feelings are such a part of our feminine power. And if we're able to really direct and own our feelings and know where they're rooted, then all of a sudden we can trust ourselves and our feelings that much more. So I'm super excited to share this with you today. And number 4, this is going to sound really simple, but where we want to get in an argument is to simply get to the space where we help ourselves and maybe the individuals we're having the difficult conversation with get to a request. Because if we're not making a request, we're probably stuck in a complaint.
Right.
Okay, and most arguments are rooted in recycling what?
Old stuff.
Yeah, it's just the stuff, right? The complaint. So we're recycling this complaint, the blame, all that kind of stuff. So the tools we're going to give you here is arm yourself with some questions around how do I get to the request, asking things like, what do you need? How can I help you? I am hoping that this webinar feels very tangible to all of you. And I've gone through and I've really created a script on how to handle each of these areas. And my desire is that when you get like this, you go, oh, it's an opportunity to practice this, right? So you go, oh, and then you start thinking about what was step 1, what was step 2, what was step 3, what was step 4, and you start moving through that argument with greater confidence. If you want to learn this, put both hands in the air and say, I do.
Yes.
I do. Anybody okay? Yay. All right. So we're going to get anchored because the first thing that we're going to do is we have to anchor ourselves. So when I'm in resistance, because I don't believe that it's not a negative feeling. It is a feeling that's indicating that a conversation might need to occur, right? So we need to stop labeling our feelings as negative or positive, that inherently our feelings are there to guide us. So if I have a feeling that makes me go like this, then I want to take a deep breath because I want to get back to that less resistance. So I have to get anchored. So my name is Susan Leahy, and I'm a loving, powerful, committed woman.
Yes, you are.
Yes,
There
you
it
are.
is. I'd like 5 or 6 other people to yell out their anchors. Who's on the line right now?
My name is Lois, and I'm a caring, creative, and dedicated woman.
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
are.
are.
That was great. That was very fast, Lois. I love it. Who else?
So my name is Sherry, and I'm a creative, curious, and caring woman.
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
are.
are.
Thank you, Sherry. Who else is in the room?
My name is Kathy, and I am a considerate, sensitive, conscientious woman.
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
are.
are.
Beautiful. Give me another one.
Hello, my name is Linda, and I am a curious, persevering, caring woman.
Yes,
Yes,
you
you are.
Oh.
All right. So again, I am bringing this up because this will only work if we practice it. So very important, that sense of whenever I engage in an argument, I have to do my best to get anchored. I was away for 2 weeks and I flew back in from, I was in Orange County in California, and I came back and I was standing outside, and it was about 12:45 at night. It was very late. And I was waiting to get into my taxi, and this woman walks up behind me, and she's smoking a cigarette, and she's kind of doing her thing. And then all of a sudden she flicks the cigarette on the floor and just kind of, stomps out the butt. And my entire body just like filled with anger and rage, because I was like, how dare you come to Mexico and throw your trash on the floor? Like, I just got angry, right? And I wanted to just, because my personality is to be extroverted and say what I'm thinking. But I had to sit there and take some intentional deep breaths in, and thank God I got anchored, right? Thank God I got anchored, because the energy in which I would have engaged in that conversation wouldn't have been productive. Does anybody know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right? So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, this is an amazing tool to get you back to the space of conscientiously saying, how do I want to engage in this difficult conversation? Now, I made a judgment call in that moment. It was 12:30 at night. There was a man with a dustpan right about 3 feet away from us, that I sat there and I took a deep breath and I said, okay, I don't need to engage in this conversation. But the only reason I got to make that decision is because I got what?
Anchor.
I got anchored, right? And so again, it maybe kept me from having an argument I didn't need to have. Right? So this is the great one, because it really then enables you to be in choice. So your anchor is there to kind of remind you. Doesn't mean that you're not still angry. Doesn't mean that you're still not frustrated. Doesn't mean that that emotion didn't maybe open something up, you know, but I could now choose how I wanted to manage it rather than my emotion in that moment managing me. So once I get anchored, step number 2 is commit to generating a win-win. So what I'd like you to say is, I commit to generating a win-win. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
I
commit
commit
to
to
generating a
win-win.
win-win.
Okay, so this is the first step, is that internal dialogue. I'm sharing with you the script in which, in how every probably argument in my relationship with my husband has been positioned, and probably one of the greatest communication tools to help elicit a win-win that I have found is this statement: you deserve to feel good and I deserve to feel good, and this doesn't feel good. So what are we going to do so that we can feel good? Okay, most arguments settle around a not good feeling or not good interaction. Something happened, right? So either the content, you know, the content doesn't feel good, or the context doesn't feel good. So acknowledging that you can generate a win-win simply around rallying around the fact that I deserve to feel good and you deserve to feel good. And you know what? This doesn't feel good. So what are we going to do so that we can just feel good? Because now all of a sudden, I want you to put your hands like this again. What does the win-win generate? The win-win generates connection. It generates relationship. And people don't want to connect you if you're trying to beat them at the argument. This to me is fundamentally why the Dalai Lama says the world will be saved by the Western woman. I believe it's because women inherently get this in a way that is biologically connected to our beingness. And we have not been in an environment where we've really allowed this belief to take root. And if the win-win really became the collective consciousness, think about how dynamically different our universe would be, right? So I don't want us to underestimate this. And this isn't just some simple fun words, that a win-win is a fundamental belief that I see your humanity and I want you to see my humanity. So we're going to figure out how to be in this conversation till we get there. Comments, thoughts, or questions about this as I'm talking about this? Does this make sense? What does it resonate? How does it resonate?
I really like it because it points out how you're feeling, how I feel personally, and then it gives the other person permission to feel the way they do so that there can be an open conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And I love what, as you're talking, the words coming into my head is, it's like, it feels like an invitation. So it's not just, because a lot of arguments are one way, and it's who yells the loudest, who is the most threatening, because people have been arguing in the power over paradigm. I don't argue in power over. I argue in where? Power with. It's my commitment to argue with myself and with my partner and with the people I interact in the world at the level of power with. Now, I'm not perfect at this. I'm saying this is part of is that it's fun, is that I get to interact with the difficult conversations in a different way that really does allow my confidence to enter into how I show up. Because in power over, there is no choice. There's really just reaction. In power with, there's infinite choice. And there's total response, which is inherently empowering, right? So I love this statement. It's super simple. Use it in your next argument with your mate or your children, and just see what happens. See if it creates an opening. As Chris, you're saying, that sense of how does it create an opening, right? So this is connected to confidence catalyst number 4, which is this is the 4th video inside the Confident Woman program. And this comes from my premise, because remember, these videos that I put inside the Confident Woman program is just the foundation of my thinking related to this conversation, is that it feels good to be confident. And you need to own that you deserve to feel good. Can everybody say, I deserve to feel good?
I deserve to feel good.
And what is amazing about that statement is that right here, right now, it's like, yeah, duh. But I work with a lot of women one-on-one in coaching and also in my group trainings where I know that's not something that they really are practicing for themselves. So I would love for you to really attach yourself to this belief of I deserve to feel good. And that really becomes the genuine space of if I'm in resistance, if I'm feeling hurt, if I'm feeling insecure, however the argument comes up through you, you then connect to the fact that that emotion is there to serve you, and you're going to struggle towards what? Feeling good, right? Your goal isn't to stay in the ucky emotion. I suck, I'm not worthy, I'm not big enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm too big, I'm whatever it is. I'm not going to stay in the yucky feeling. I'm going to use that feeling as an indicator that I need to move in the direction of having a conversation that's going to support me in getting what it is that I need and want. Everybody take an intentional deep breath in. And that this really starts with the commitment of I deserve to feel good. And in our household, this is totally true, right? And I like that it's true because you know what? I'm happy. And who is my happiness dependent upon?
You.
So this statement is when mama's happy, creates this sense of like, oh, we all got to work around mama, so mama's happy. But what if that happiness just became your commitment? What if you just became in your home, whether you're a mama or not, we all have, you know, this mother energy because of our femininity. You just choose to just own your happiness. You're arguing for your happiness. You're arguing towards your happiness because full stop, you deserve to feel good. Everybody take another intentional deep breath in. Oh, because for me, this is the essence of where all my arguments start. I get anchored and then I remind myself that I'm committed to the win-win. And the win-win starts with I deserve to feel good. You know, and a lot of women aren't playing a game. And again, I'm using generalities. It's my assessment that there's lots of women looking for ways to make sure everyone else feels good, but they're not owning this for themselves first, or they don't realize that I can own feeling good as much as I take responsibility for other people feeling good. Then all of a sudden it creates more of this, right? Comments or thoughts about this piece before we move forward? Comments or thoughts? What are you thinking or feeling?
You know what, Susan, when you talk about this giving, and I am such a giving person that I often have not put myself first. And that's the way I was brought up. And so I think about all the things. My mom was a great mom and she did a lot of great things, but if I had to pick one trait I wish I wouldn't have learned from my mom was that she gave of herself first before she gave herself.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
and that is the paradigm in which women have been saddled in, and it is what is robbing our ability to really have relationships that look like this. And so what you're sharing about your mother, how many of you can say, yep, you can identify with that, with what Brenda's saying? Anybody?
Yep.
You know, and I want you to hear what you're saying, because it's no small statement. You're saying as a child, looking at her mother, the one trait that you can see for your mother that didn't give her joy and also then didn't give you joy is that she didn't take care of herself.
Yeah.
Right? And what's interesting is that when we're in the power over mentality, we're so busy taking care of everyone else. And then finally, when we get fed up with it, we then just take care of ourselves and it feels completely selfish. Because neither of those dynamics are generous. But when you're in power with, it's that ownership that I deserve to feel good and you deserve to feel good. And then all of a sudden the energy becomes generous and the energy then becomes generative rather than depleting. Right? Does that make sense?
No.
So I would say get your energy meter out, because at the end of the day, if you're walking away from conversations and interactions like this, then that's work you need to do on yourself rather than think that the people around you need to take responsibility for doing this. You are the generator of your own energy. You are the creator of your reality. And many of us are leaving our reality like this, feeling deficient energetically because we're giving our power away rather than really creating a win-win. Think about win-win inherently at the energetic level. Like here we go, we're like head blown open, right? That win-win starts at the energetic level, that you leave the interaction like this and the other person leaves the interaction like this. But this is what it looks like a lot of times, right? So we
yes.
have to make sure there's this balance of the energy. I like my very high-tech meter. You like it? It's with you all the time. You can use it anywhere. All right. So great. I love that. I love that you're saying this about your mom. And again, this is inside the Confident Woman program. And you can go through and you can watch these supplemental videos in between the webinars. But this is what I call my confidence catalyst number 4. It really is owning that I deserve to feel good and how generous this is. So continuing the conversation on committing to create a win-win. And I love this. Brenda, thank you for what you said, because for me, I'm even more excited about this conversation. It's not about just creating the win-win. You get your needs, I get my needs. It's the energetic win-win. I love that. Are both of us walking away feeling a little more like, woohoo, right? That our light's a little bit more turned on. Confident people focus on solution, resolution, and win-win. It's really fun to hang out with people who are committed to the solution, who are committed to resolution. In my master's program, one of our faculty members said something that just was so, to me, inspiring. He said, the highest form of honoring another human being is to stay with them through the conflict. To me, so beautiful. The highest form of honoring another human being is to stay with them through the conflict. And what's on the other side of that conflict? Connection, resolution. This is really where love, this is where we see each other. But many times we get in the argument, and when we're in the win or power over paradigm, we're in this power struggle trying to win. Right? Rather than the sense of, I'm committed to a solution. I'm committed to a solution that works for everyone. One of the traps that I want to encourage you to avoid, and this is an interesting one because again, you know you're in power over when you are focused on placing blame. You did this, that's what happened. Let me retell the story because I was totally wronged. Or however it is that we're placing blame and we're using the content. Everybody say content.
Content.
And I want you to knock on the table that's in front of you. Content. Okay? Because that's what it is. That's how we stay in arguments that are disempowering, is we sit and we dialogue about the content over and over and over again, trying to prove that we were right. Right? And that's in that power struggle. So how do you take an intentional deep breath in and you say, okay, I'm not going to get stuck in blame? That you are in the back of your boat and in power over when you focus on assigning blame. You did this, you said this, you were wrong, I didn't like it. Like it's this outward blaming energy rather than that sense of owning, my goal is for us to seek solution and resolution. And ultimately, I want this conversation to be a win-win. And now really everybody take a deep breath here. Okay, because what I want you to hear is I'm not saying don't ever talk about the content. I'm saying get anchored, make sure the person you're about to argue with knows that you're committed to the win-win and knows that you're not there just to play the blame game. And then you'll be able to talk about what happened in a completely different way. And if you get cycled back into the blame game, what do? You go back to step number 2 and you focus on the win-win. So here's a script of what you can say. So if somebody wants to read this one out loud.
Let's not focus on who is to blame. Let's focus on finding a solution. Pointing fingers will not get us. Whoops.
Go ahead.
Pointing fingers will not get us anywhere. Let's remember we are on the same team.
There it is, right? So you then are reminding them, right? And if you do need to share content, then you let them know that I need to share this from my perspective. This was my experience. And then you create the space that maybe that individual had a different experience. I find that lots of couples ruin their relationship because they're too focused on trying to figure out content rather than getting in energetic alignment around the context. My husband and I had an argument yesterday about whether I was actually in the room when his mother showed us that she had rehung and reformatted one of our pictures, one of our paintings. And I looked at him and I'm like, I was here. He goes, no, you weren't. I was here. I was standing right here. And so for about 2 minutes, we went back and forth just arguing over whether I was in the room physically or not. And then we both had to take this energetic deep breath in and realize that the content didn't matter, right? And give each of the individuals in this space the dignity of their experience, right? So it doesn't mean that I need agreement to generate win-win. I need to hold space so that we can have our differences in experience so that we can then move forward into really the conversation we want to create. Does everybody know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right? So funny because I mean, aren't those the arguments in your relationship that just go on and on? Right? It's all over content. So what is our struggle then? Our struggle is then not in win-lose. Our struggle is towards win-win because ultimately the win-win lives within the communication environment that I am standing in. And it takes an immense amount of confidence for you to really get committed to which environment am I in? Am I in power over or am I in power with? Right? One of my favorite stories about my husband is I love that he also argues for the win-win. And one day I was really upset about something and because I was right, and I was in the power over. And I was going to go to a class and I was going to motivate people and teach them how to communicate, right? And the whole time I was so angry, I didn't realize I was in such a power over struggle mentally with myself. And my husband left me a message on the phone during the break and I was listening to it just to get a little bit more, be more right. And he said something to me on the phone that just was amazing with respects to shifting the environment. He said, Susan, whether you like it or not, I want to remind you that you and we're on the same team. And when you get home, we're not going to fight about this, right? We're not going to do this. We're going to talk about this because you and I are a team. And he repeated the words 3 times. He said, team, team, team. And with each statement, he allowed me to put down my win-lose position. And I'm sharing this because confident people take ownership for the communication environment they're enrolling people into. 99% of the people, I'm gonna say 99.9% of the individuals that engage with you in a space of resistance are gonna come at you in the power over, in the win-lose energy. But you choose if you grab on. Right? We've talked about this idea of the arm wrestling. So now you get anchored, you then remind them, I'm committed to generating a win-win. Let's take an intentional deep breath in. You deserve to feel good. I deserve to feel good. You and I, we're on the same team. So then all of a sudden you're shifting that power from win-lose to win-win. And this was a slide, I think, from webinar number 2, where we were talking about shifting and having the confidence to shift the power. One of the most important places to practice and play, everybody say play.
Play.
Okay, because this is playful, where you get to play with the environment. In power over, they don't want you to play with the environment. They want you to fight and be resistant in the environment. Where you're in power with, now you get to be more playful, more creative. You're standing in a space of invitation. And so, hey, wait a minute, I'm committed to setting you up for success. Now, one of the other pieces I've always said to Jared is, you know what, Jared, no matter what argument we have, I want you to know my commitment is to set you up for success. How different is that argument going to go energetically? So I can have my ungraceful feelings or what my moments that might wobble, but at the end of the day, I'm committed. My overarching commitment is I'm committed to setting us up for success. And a breakdown always precedes a breakthrough. And a breakthrough really represents a greater level of connection, a deepening of the relationship, right? So let's look at this, because the third piece, and this is what I'm really excited to talk to you about today, is I want women, I want you, I want us collectively to start really trusting what we're feeling. Because our feelings and the way that we feel and the different way that we feel and interact is a strength. And so I want us to trust yourself in what you're feeling. Now, our feelings show up in the form of moods. Does anybody ever have moods? Anybody in a mood?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Not me. Not. And so I want us to, because I feel like this is like a label that women have been given. Oh my God, you're so moody. Don't be so moody. Why do you have to be so moody? And so all of a sudden, it becomes a disempowering way that we relate to our feelings. Like there must be something wrong with me. So the internal conversation starts putting ourselves down. And all of a sudden what happens is that mood kind of takes control of us. So the question is, do you control and own and feel and live through your moods? Or do your moods own and control and live through you? Right? So this is where we're gonna start trusting ourselves, is because we're gonna start using our moods as an indicator. Because your mood ultimately is contagious. This is not to say that there's anything, this is not about negative moods or positive moods. I want to give you a tool with respects to how to manage and lean into and become self-aware about how you're relating to the mood you're in here, so that it'll impact what you say out here. So I'm going to share with you a tool. I want everyone to say, if I accept my mood.
If I accept my mood.
Now I want everyone to say, if I resist my mood.
If I resist my mood.
So this is the pivotal point when you're in a mood, because you're going to be in a mood, right? And I want you to utilize your mood as an indicator. And the first step of really being able to trust your mood is to just simply say, am I in acceptance of this mood? Or am I in resistance to this mood? Like, I shouldn't be feeling this. This isn't what I need to be, that this is, and we all know what that feels like, right? So
Right.
I want you to just see kind of how we talk about this. So the first area is the past. So how many of you ever think about your past, and just thinking about your past can put you in a certain mood, right?
Yes.
We've all had this experience. Say, yep. Okay, so what I want to say about your past is that it's fact. You've already lived it, right? So there's this sense of the past is some form of a fact. We assess the past really as unchangeable. Okay, so everybody say the past is unchangeable.
The past is unchangeable.
Okay, now this is interesting because inherently that's kind of true. If I graduated from Cal Poly Pomona, that's where I graduated from, right? Like that's in my past, right? So it's unchangeable. We've already lived it. It is what it is. So it's kind of fact. Now, if I resist my past, what kind of mood it creates is it puts me in a resentment, right? A mood where I am resenting someone, something, some memory. How many of you have ever experienced resentment?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So what I want to do is I don't want to make the mood of resentment negative. I want it to become an indicator. Everybody say indicator.
Indicator.
Okay? That if I am in a space of resistance, or excuse me, resentment, then I need to own, wait a minute, I'm in resistance. So how do I, because resistance has power over you. Now I want you to hear that. Resistance is power over, acceptance is power with. So this is a really generous place because you simply use it as an indicator. So if I can move from resistance to acceptance, then all of a sudden I'm at peace with my past. Somehow, whatever has happened in my past, which is completely unchangeable, I just accept it as my past. I don't have to fix it. I don't have to explain it. I don't have to defend it. I don't have to do any of those things that resistance want me to do, right? I can just stand in peace, right? So everybody take an intentional deep breath in. So our goal with respect to whatever mood we're in is to really kind of align ourselves in power with and get to the space of acceptance, right? That's the work, because then I can be more powerful. If I'm relating to somebody through an experience I had in my past, if I can be in peace, then I'm owning my power in a different way, okay? So let's look at the present moment. Everybody say right here, right now.
Right here, right now.
Okay, so the present moment, right here, right now, right? That's all we got. The present moment is really about possibility. And so we assess that this present moment is changeable. Like it's dynamic. It's like something's happening right here, right now, right? So the present moment is possibility. And if I'm resisting the present moment, which many times we do, and we resist being in possibility, and we resist this idea of dynamic change, then the energy it creates is a feeling of resignation and fear. So I'm now stuck in this mood of being resigned to life. Well, this is just the way it goes. This is what always happens. No wonder it's happening to me right now again, right? So there's resignation, or we're living in a space of fear. Oh my God, right? What's going to happen? Like there's a sense of like fear. I don't know if I can do that. What happens if, you know, and so it renders us from really moving forward. So if I can notice when I'm in the mood of being like resigned or in resignation or fear, and I open up and I figure out how do I just accept the present moment more, then all of a sudden I can live more into the mood of being ambitious and inspired. So part of what I want you to see about this very simple diagram is that so much of it is about you getting in touch with, where am I related to any given mood? Am I in resistance? Am I in acceptance? What is it like to communicate with somebody in the present moment who is stuck in the mood, in the fear of mood, the mood of fear?
Frustrating.
It's draining, right, Bridget?
Yeah.
What else?
And frustrating.
Oh, and frustrating, right? So it's really frustrating. You don't, because you're not in relationship with that person. What are you in? You're in some kind of conflict, and you're also separated because their fear is in between you, right? And sometimes our fear is in between what it is that we're wanting to create. So this is not just about identifying it in others, it's about really owning where I am so that I can communicate from a more ambitious and inspired and elevated space. So let's step into the future, shall we? And let's think about, well, what the future holds, right? So really the future is uncertainty. Everybody say uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
Because the reality is nobody, that we cannot confidently predict what will occur. You can't do it. You know, I mean, this is what's so interesting about the future is we cannot confidently predict. We could have a good idea, we can make hunches, but ultimately everybody's future is pretty uncertain, right? Now, if you are in resistance to that fact, then it generates a whole lot of anxiety. Oh God, what's going to happen, right? Because you're anchored in that fear in the present moment, which then leads to anxiety. And that anxiety can become suffocating, right? And so I always think it's a lot of people struggle with anxiety. I don't think that there's a person on the planet that hasn't at least put their toe, if not like their whole body, in the water of anxiety, you know, whether related to something they're going to do in the future, a speech they're going to give, a presentation they're going to do, a baby they're going to have, a marriage they're going to create, right? That the anxiety can get a hold of you. And it keeps you certainly separated in your relationships. And so what happens if I take a deep breath and I really kind of grab this space of, you know what, I accept the uncertainty of my future. And I know that I cannot confidently predict everything that will occur, and I accept that. So then all of a sudden you can start stepping more fully into and giving yourself the permission to step into a space of wonder. You can be more courageous and take risks. And then ultimately you can just be more excited about, well, what's next? Right? Like, you know, like, oh my God, what do I do tomorrow? Right? So there's this energy that you get to generate. And many times, and this is why I say our moods are so powerful if we're able to get them into alignment. And so I'm not saying that you're failing and doing it wrong when you're in resentment. I'm saying use your resentment as an indicator that there's greater acceptance that needs to be practiced on your behalf to get you to a space of more grounded peace. Right? So then you're using the fear and the resignation not as a space that's keeping you stuck down, but as an indicator. Everybody say, my mood is an indicator.
My mood
is an indicator.
Yeah, and because again, I deserve to feel what?
Good.
Good. I deserve to feel good. You're not always going to feel good. I don't always feel good. And thank God I have the moods of resentment and resignation and fear and anxiety to add the texture to my conversation so that there's an indicator that something needs to be opened up within who? Within me. So there's a greater level of acceptance I have to have for myself. There's a greater level of acceptance I have to have for the past, the present, and the future. And that acceptance is what's moving you into the power with paradigm, which is the most empowered space to be. So I hope that all of you are really hearing and catching that I'm not saying that you fail when you're in resistance. Is everybody really getting that?
Yep, yep.
Because when we're in resistance, what do we get? What's the noise we get to make? So this is where you get to then open the door to start becoming more playful with your process. Because when we're in resistance, the flow of confidence that is you stops. It's like the plug, right? So the resistance is the plug and you can't flow. So what you want to do is just, oh, I'm in resistance. How do I unplug this resistance and start accepting and then allow myself to elevate into a mood that's going to be more empowering? Not how do I get out of this mood? How do I change this mood? How do I never have this mood again? How do I play with this mood? How do I elevate from? How do I give myself permission? So comments, thoughts, or questions, because there's a lot in this slide. How is this resonating for you?
So the aha for me, Susan, was to just embrace the resistance and move towards what I want.
Okay, and let's even say it. Just flow towards what you want, right? Because this is the confidence flow. So now the resistance doesn't feel like flow at all. And now you're giving yourself, Brenda, because what I want for myself, for my daughter, and for every woman on this webinar, and any woman that I ever get to work with, is I never want you to think that what you're feeling is bad. We label it so quickly, and then it has power over us. When we're in resentment, or we're in fear, or we're in resignation, or we're in anxiety, or we're in doubt, or we're in whatever it is, we all of a sudden start trying to like figure out, why am I there? Rather than saying, okay, this is where I am. I'm going to open up and I'm going to think about where I want to be, because I deserve to feel good. So you're now using that negative feeling as an indicator, or you're using, let me change my own verbiage, you're using that not good feeling or that not good mood as an indicator that something else wants to emerge. Right? Other comments or thoughts? What else is this stimulating for you to think?
How to get this message to the other person, the other party.
Yeah.
Yes, this
Yeah.
is the way we can, this is the way we can evaluate, but the other party may not be on that level.
And so what I want you to really do in this moment with this question is not underestimate how powerful it is for you to model this. Because you don't have to have the other person there for them to eventually join you. But what we do is we give our power away. And so if somebody's in resentment and fear and anxiety, it's like, well, fine, I know resentment, fear, and anxiety, I'll join you there, right? Because those are familiar feelings for all of us. So we kind of give our power away. So it's a sense of like, look, I'm seeing a whole lot of anxiety. Can we take an intentional deep breath in here? Maybe there's a way for us to maybe get excited about what we're gonna create. Maybe both of us need to have a little bit more courage and ask some more questions. You know, I'm going to take a moment to just maybe wonder. So you can invite people into the other side. So be the generous invitation rather than, oh, you're there, right? Like they're doing something wrong, because that's the judgment piece. It's like, wow, I see that there's a lot of fear here for you. You know what? And you have every right to feel fear. I understand that. What I want to lean into is I want to take a deep breath and I want to find a way in this moment right here, right now, to feel a little bit more inspired, because I want you to feel inspired and I want me to feel inspired. So you can use the words for you and for them. So now you're being a generous invitation rather than a teacher saying if, you know, they didn't do it wrong. Does that make sense? It's you become the generous invitation to open up your own acceptance, be in the space you would like them to join you, and then make the invitation. Because we can't fix the fear. But what we can do is we can really enroll people into being more inspired. Right? What are you thinking, Linda?
I'm thinking those are very good suggestions.
Good. Good. I like that answer. So, and I love that you asked the question, because it is that sense of you're being so generous with yourself that you're also then just giving it to the other person. My commitment is I want to be in a space of excitement and wonder about my future. And you know what? I want you to be in excitement and wonder about our future. So that doesn't mean that the anxiety is not going to be there, but what we focus on and give into more so is the other side of the mood. It's good. That's good. Any other comments, thoughts as we're moving forward from this?
I think it sort of helps you to evaluate the problem either with yourself or with the other person, and then adjust.
Yeah.
And so there is, you know, like just thinking of a case that came up, but and it was just a happening, but it's not resolved. But I know what I can do about it.
Good. And you know what's amazing is it doesn't have to be resolved. You can now be more playful in finding the solution.
Right.
And now the solution is something that can be co-created rather than an answer that's dictated. Mm-hmm. Right? So I will also say this about moods. I'm going to put this out here as a disclaimer. I don't have it in the PowerPoint, but if someone is in a mood, never ask them why they're in that mood. Why would you be so anxious? Why are you so fearful? What are you, no, so, and when I find in my relationships, because people can be in whatever mood they're in, but what you can do is you can invite them into something that might be a better feeling. So when I look at my husband or my children and I see them do something or they're in a mood, why would you? And anytime I say why, I have a canned answer that I say out loud. So I look at my husband and I go, why would you think that? And I go, oh, because you're a free-thinking sentient being with your own wants and desires. So I immediately answer the question of why by giving them the dignity of their own experience. Mm-hmm. And then that sense of we don't need to solve why you're there or why you feel crappy, or we don't need to solve that. We can aspire to what it is that we want to co-create. And if we then get in alignment, we can talk about the content a little bit more, but aspiring to more peace, more inspiration, more wonder. Okay? All right, so number 4, this is the last piece, and I'm going to move through this fairly quickly, is if I'm in an argument where I want to get from the anchor, from committing to the win-win, from, I just went blank, give me number 3. Give me number three
Trust
is
your
owning it,
feelings.
trusting my feelings. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Number three, trusting my feelings, my moods, and accepting. Number four is I ultimately want to move that conversation into a space where we're making empowered requests. So I have a practice, which is anytime someone comes to me with a complaint, I hear them and I say, is there a way that we can transform this into a request? Right? So in my mind, I either say that out loud. So what is your request? Or I'll say to them, what do you need and how can I help you? So what is it that you need right now? Okay, how can I help you? What specific request are you making from this? Right? So you're trying to get it to a space where that person is actually thinking about, well, I need you to just listen. I need you to give me a hug. I need you to just sit there for 15 seconds and just hear what it is that I have to say. So you get to a space where someone is making a request. And then part of this is help yourself to show up in that argument and request what it is that you need. So I'm going to make a request that we all just take an intentional deep breath in right now. I'm going to make a request that we recommit to focusing on the fact that we're on the same team. I'm going to make a request that both of us remember that we are here to set each other up for success. I'm going to make a request that we both remember that we deserve to feel good. You know, so you make the request around not only the content, but also the context. And you can do that at any time and then also support the individual you might be arguing with to get to a space where they're asking for what they need and what they want. Right? So if you can't comply with that request, renegotiate it. Right? You renegotiate it till it's something that you can help them with. You do not have to say yes to a request. What did I just say?
You do not have to say yes to a request.
Okay, all of those people out there, all of those ladies who say yes too much, you don't have to say yes to the request. You can renegotiate the request until you get to something that actually leaves your energy where? Woo!
Feeling good.
That's it, feeling good. That's absolutely right. So you know what? I hear that that's your request. I can't do that right now. Is there something else that I can do to support you in feeling good? Or can we make it, and you renegotiate it? So this is not about becoming the doormat for everyone else's needs. This is about being the conduit to move the conversation from complaint to requests so that we're now moving towards solutions. Because the doorway right before you get into a solution is through the powerful door of requests, right? That's what we're passing through. So if we don't know how to get to the solution because it's not apparent, don't worry about it. Let's start just making requests and all of a sudden it's going to help us find the solution. Isn't that genius? Right? So now all of a sudden we don't have to be and have such pressure on, we got to find the solution, right? It's like, well, let's just figure out what do you need? How can I help you? Let's make some specific requests. This is what I request. What do you request? Now we're talking out of complaint. We're moving into action. So I love this conversation. To me, I believe this is such a fun playground for you to really let your confidence flow. And it's not about winning the argument. It's about creating a space for you to really step into your creative genius around how you're going to create more of this in your life. Right? And so we talked about getting anchored, committed to creating the win-win, trusting what you are feeling through owning your moods, and ultimately really allowing yourself to help yourself and others make requests. But you don't have to always say yes to the request. The requests will help you get to the solution. So that is our time. We're at the, the almost 8:30 mark. And our next training is April 17th, same time, same bat channel. I want to say thank you for your time, your energy, and your life. This is most definitely a life-giving and important conversation. So I'm excited for you to feel resistance, and I'm almost more excited for you to go this week. So good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will, yeah, I'll stay on. I'm going to stay on. I'm going to stop the recording. And so,